hosted by Brayton Horn. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St. Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brayton Horn will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brayton Horn at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on Nice Radio for A View from the Outside.
This society need a spectacle. It might help us to see some evil. This society need a spectacle.
Saturday is the 10th day in the month of June 2017. A couple Saturday mornings ago we had a discussion about the elections in the United Kingdom, and Brayton Horn could have said, I told you so. Good morning to you, Mr. Horn.
Good morning to you, Randy. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, feeling good this morning.
Good. Yes, let me first off the bat say good morning to all our listeners. There's a crackling on the line. Are you hearing it, Randy?
You're sounding good to me.
Right. Yes, let me say good morning to all of our listeners, all of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and all listeners of Nice Radio and listeners of A View from the Outside. Yes, I could have said I told you so, and I am going to say I told you so. The elections have happened, and the results are known, so there you go.
What happened?
Tell me about...
What happened, bro?
It's a very good question, Randy. And as I have said to you when we spoke the first time on the election, when the elections were called, and you said to me, Theresa May has a 20-point lead, and so on and so forth. I remember saying to you specifically that the polls are what they are, but the reality will tell come election day. And so say so done. I repeated that when we spoke again on the elections. And as I said, so say so done. Jeremy Corbyn, who is the leader of the Labour Party, he mounted a very stout campaign, a campaign which encompassed everyone in society. In fact, it was a one-nation society, so to speak. It's a togetherness kind of campaign, a campaign where everybody he expected to come on board, got on board. The young people, the older people, the old people, So Jeremy Corbyn and his team ought to be credited for saving the Labour Party from oblivion, because that was one of the intentions, no doubt, of the Conservative Party when Theresa May called the elections some 7 weeks ago.
Was this Corbyn doing so good, or Theresa May doing so bad, or is this the Brexit vote all over again?
I think it's a combination of her doing very badly and Corbyn doing very well. Because let us not forget, for those of us who have been following, the Corbyn mania, so to speak, and the Theresa May, her leadership of the Conservative Party, let us not forget that the media in this country, in the UK, and possibly in the wider world as well, this vilified Jeremy Corbyn as a left-wing socialist and all the other ill names that he was called. And let us not forget, too, that within the Labour Party itself, Jeremy Corbyn, had a struggle. In fact, he won the leadership. Then there was a challenge of his leadership, and he won again. So one could only surmise that had his team, had the Labour Party been behind Jeremy Corbyn or got behind Jeremy Corbyn right from the first time he was elected, the results may have been different today.
But he lost some support in a lot of his strongholds. A lot of Labour supporters didn't, as you quite rightly said, didn't support him the way they should have.
Absolutely, and many of them are regretting it now, because I listened to some interviews of senior or seasoned, established Labour Party supporters, and some of them have said now that maybe, or have inferred, if they haven't actually expressed it, have inferred that maybe they ought to have gotten behind Jeremy Corbyn, because had they done so, we may have had a different result now. But it is what it is. We now have Theresa May, who had a majority when she was in government. She had a majority, an overall majority, where the Conservative Party was the only party that was the government of the UK. And now she's in a position where she has to go to embed with other party, or another party, at least one, to try to form a minority government.
But minority governments, how long do they last in the United Kingdom? A 6-month period or so?
Well, there was a coalition, as you remember, from the 2010 elections, and that coalition lasted its full term. There's a coalition between the Conservative Party and the Liberal Democrat Party. And you may remember that Nick Clegg, who was the leader of the Lib Dem at that time in 2010, in fact, during this elections, which happened a couple of days ago, he lost his seat. But to answer your question directly, coalitions or minority governments, which it would be in this case, there's a history of them not lasting. And in fact, there are undercurrents at the moment in respect of the Conservative Party, where there are members of Theresa May's party who are actually saying that working with the DUP, which is the party in Northern Ireland, the Democratic Unionist Party, the DUP, and one would remember that the DUP is comprised of parties like Sinn Féin, who are heavily involved in the terrorism in terrorism in Northern Ireland during the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even coming into the 2000s as well. So I think Caroline Lucas has put it very well, and Caroline Lucas is she is the only Green Party member to have won a seat in the election. She was the only one, and she was re-elected. And she, writing in the Guardian yesterday, I think she put it really well. And this is what she said. She said, "This desperate Conservative government will reach out to the hardline DUP." And remember, as we said, the DUP is the Democratic Unionist Party of Northern Ireland. And she said, the DUP, a party that denies climate change, opposes abortion, and is openly homophobic. She said Theresa May was right to warn about a coalition of chaos. Her party is about to try to create one. I think Caroline Lucas has put it right, because prior to the election, one of Theresa May's strategy was to warn the UK electorate that if they elect Jeremy Corbyn, or if they vote for the Labour Party, they would be voting for a coalition of chaos, because her thing was that there would be a coalition between the Labour Party and other parties to get into government. Now, what Caroline Lucas has said is that now she's in the position where she warned about the coalition of chaos, but she is now going to try to create one. Because by her trying to work with the DUP, that is exactly what we're going to get. Because here you have a party which she says, and which is widely known, they deny climate change, they oppose abortion, and they're openly homophobic. And how on earth then, if the Conservative Party is what they say they are, how are they going to work with the DUP? So there are undercurrents within the Conservative Party at the moment, and Randy, believe you me, the talk is that if Theresa May survives until Christmas, she survives for a very long time. And in fact, there is also talk that there may well be either a Christmas or either an autumn, or which is around Christmas, coming up to Christmas time, or a spring election is likely in the UK. So that's where we are.
So what's happening now with this Brexit negotiation? Because that is scheduled for a couple of days down the road.
That's a very good question. The negotiations are supposed to start in 9 days' time. That's 9 working days, which is they're supposed to start on the 22nd of May. Now, following the results yesterday, Theresa May tried to put up a brave face to say that the negotiations will continue, and so on and so forth. Now, there's no doubt that come the 22nd, something has to be done. Because the guys in Europe, the rest of Europe, they're already tapping their watches to say time is ticking, and time continues to tick. It doesn't stop unless a specific request is made for it to stop. And so that's what we have. Here you have a party, here you have a Prime Minister, Theresa May, who had an overall majority. She said, when she called the elections, that she wanted a bigger mandate to show that she has the backing of the United Kingdom, the backing of the electorate to go in to lead the negotiations in Europe. Now she's in a much weaker position where she doesn't have an overall majority, where they are now bickering and bitings within her own party, and where names are already been put forward for the next leadership. We hear the name Boris Johnson coming to the fore. We hear the name David Davies, who is the Brexit minister, coming to the fore as the next leader. And we hear Amber Rudd, who is the current Home Secretary. Those names have been bandied about as being the next leader. So the negotiations are to start on the 22nd of May. What happens, only time will tell. But to say that everything has been thrown into chaos is probably putting it mildly. And whilst all that is being done, we have a smiling Jeremy Corbyn who is waiting in the wings, so to speak, because if elections are called anytime soon, it is quite likely that Jeremy Corbyn will win an overall majority for the Labour Party, and the Labour Party will be in government in the UK.
So that's the story. That's the story, Britain Home, bringing us up to steam and what's happening in the United Kingdom. And Theresa May, is she staying or is she going after taking a thumping? Is she staying?
Very good question, Randy. Is she staying or is she going? And that is a question which her own party is asking her. I just want to read to you something written by a young writer called Owen Jones. And Owen Jones he wrote a few books actually, and he writes for The Guardian and he appears on television sometimes. And his article yesterday in The Guardian is entitled, Jeremy Corbyn has caused a sensation. He would make a fine Prime Minister. I just want to read the opening paragraph, very brief it is, of what he said. He said, and I'm reading this in answer to your question about Theresa May, will she stay or will she go? But this is what Owen Jones said. He said, this is one of the most sensational political upsets of our time. Theresa May, a wretched, dishonest excuse of a politician, don't pity her. She launched a general election with the sole purpose of crushing opposition in Britain. It was brazen opportunism, a naked power grab. Privately, I'm told her team wanted the precious bauble of going down in history as the grave diggers of the British Labour Party. Instead, she destroys herself. She is toast. So according to Owen Jones, Theresa May is toast. So she and many have predicted that she won't last until Christmas. So will she stay or will she go? I think the answer is somewhere in there, Randy.
Virgin, let me thank you for bringing us up to steam and what's happening and what is still happening with the United Kingdom's election, because it's not going to stop right now.
That's right. Randy, before I go, though, let me just say to our listeners that we have very good weather in London today. The temperature is 22 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And I just want to remind our people, our Vincentian people, that the issue of accountability has to remain at their forefront. Accountability, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is the quality or state of being accountable. Especially, it is an obligation to accept responsibility or to account for one's own actions. So I am saying to our people, let accountability not be a 9-day talk. It must be sustained. It must be continuous. Let those who hold the reins of power in the country know that nothing less than their obligation under the Constitution will do. They must be held accountable. Bob Woodward, who was and one of the investigative journalists during the Nixon time, in President Nixon's time, when he was impeached and had to leave office in disgrace, he said it was accountability that Nixon feared. The question has got to be, who in St. Vincent fears accountability? Why are they putting up so much barriers to accountability? Why don't they want to be accountable to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as they're obligated to do by the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? And I want to say to all of our people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that according to what Martin Luther King said, he said, there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic, nor popular. But he, of course she, must take it because conscience tells him it is right. Vincentians, it is time that your conscience tells you, regardless to what party you support, it is time that your conscience tells you that those who hold the reins of power in the country must be accountable. And accountability, as far as they're concerned, is a must, as dictated by the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Randy, this is Britton Horn with a view from the outside, and a reminder to our people that they can send feedback to aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. That's aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. Have a great weekend. Have a pleasant Saturday. Have a great weekend, and have a fruitful week ahead. All the best to you.
Britton, thank you.